Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, presented by No Vape Idaho. Idaho Public Television's campaign to raise awareness about the dangers of youth vaping. Be smart, don't start. We are here to talk all of the biggest stories from the Magic Valley, District 4 in the past week that was, and boy, was there a lot. So without further ado, my name is Brandon Baney. Let's bring on our Magic Valley expert, Atomic City, Scott Burton. What's up, Scott?
What's going on, Brandon? I chose Atomic City this time around because last weekend, right after state basketball, catch a quick flight to Vegas to see U2 again at the Sphere. And, of course, Atomic City is their kind of new song, whatever. Makes like 100th show I've seen in my lifetime or something like that. But had to do it, and that's why Atomic City is here.
Now, you went earlier this fall to the first concert ever held at the Sphere in Las Vegas. It was also U2. And then take us through how you got to go on the return trip after Girls State had concluded this past weekend.
Well, we if you belong to their fan club, I guess I'm going to total geek out here. So it's you belong to the fan club, you get special deals, and you don't always get to choose unless you want to like pay out the nose for whatever. But you get allotted X amount of tickets that we could buy together, and it just happened to be, that weekend. And it's like, well, let's just plan around it. And so here we go. Off we went. There was about 15 of us, all family, and just had a blast. Pictures, some of them I can't post or show. It's Vegas. And, but it was crazy. The first time we went, we were like on front row. I mean, just VIP section 100. And then this time we climbed up high, and we're like, you know what, let's check out the whole thing. And I'll tell you what, the higher the seat, the better the experience, because you've got that entire weird screen thing going on that is just trippy. And they had to adjust some of it because some people were kind of getting seizures. It was that kind of a deal. It is, if you've not experienced it, you got to go. They're having other bands. Fish, if you remember Fish from the 90s, they have signed to play there now. I didn't even think they were apparently they're still in the pond, so they're going to play. And their other bands are coming. They're showing movies. They've got experiences there. It is definitely worth the trip. And plus, it's Vegas. I love Vegas.
Yeah. You talked about the higher the seat, the better the experience. I could make a joke about the higher the something, the better the experience, but I'm going to leave that low-hanging fruit alone. And
I'm going to pluck that fruit because
oh no,
because they're bringing in Fish. There was talk of like some Grateful Dead. There was talk of like some other stuff, Pink Floyd. I mean, there was talk of those kinds of things coming in. And yeah, you talk about a no-brainer. We thought that the Pink Floyd The Wall was trippy. I mean, imagine what they would do at the Sphere with all of that stuff. So we'll see what they do, but it's certainly an experience. That is for sure.
Yeah, some comments already from some of our Idaho Sports brethren. Paul Kingsbury, seizures. Back in my day, you paid extra for that. That's okay. Also, Scott, first time you're back in your man cave / office with all those cool football helmets behind you. We figured, you'd been in front of the roaring fireplace for the winter, but we are pretty much spring sports start Friday. So, it's time to cool off and get ready for spring sports. So you move back outside. Logan Green says, why do you have a Clemson helmet? Haven't they lost to NC State 2 of the last 3 years? Seems like you need a different one. Logan, of course, big NC State homer.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Carolina chimes in, way to go. Yeah. No, I've got like, here, let me show you over on the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got all the jerseys, but I've got the helmets like Pat Tillman right there. That's his college jersey and pro jersey. Ferragamo had to take down because I had to get to the fuse box. But, Bo Jackson, his college jersey or his college helmet, his pro helmet, Kurt Warner. I mean, it's just a whole thing. And then I got stuff over here. It's going to be great. It's awesome. And then Mamba on the back wall is just about done.
Yeah, let's see here. Oh, cool. That's painted on. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Looks good. And all that exercise equipment that nobody uses.
Yeah, it's a good clothing rack. And I'm just, I'm looking at it, and I think, entertaining the thought is the first step. And so, we're going to let that just kind of simmer for a bit and, make my way over there at some point.
Yeah, eventually, right? Once things slow down, because we are right in the thick of it, Scott. We are straddling worlds of girls basketball, wrestling, and boys basketball, but also straddling worlds of winter sports and spring sports, which start on Friday, which, again, I've said numerous times, I'm not a huge fan of the overlap between everything, but another topic for another day, because we got plenty already on the docket today, Scott. So we're going to get into it.
Yeah, this is a busy time, and we have a lot of information to cover. So let's just dive in.
Yeah, let's start with the weekend that was at the girls basketball state tournaments throughout the Treasure Valley, Scott. First time since 1995 that not a single team from the Treasure Valley, aka District 3, not a single team was playing for a championship on Saturday. First time since 95. I don't know about you, but I found it quite enjoyable.
You know what? I think most of the state outside of the Boise Valley found it very enjoyable. There's just certain kind of prejudices that people have about areas of the state, Boise being the Mecca. Yeah, it's nice to not have a Boise team in there. Nothing against them, but it's something we don't see very often. So the rest of the state, good for them.
Yep. And it was East Idaho doing most of the heavy lifting. We had 3 championships where it was all East Idaho, a 4th championship won by an East Idaho team. And then we had an all North final in the 5A championship as well. So nobody from the Magic Valley won a title, Scott, but we did have one team get as close as you can without actually winning. Dietrich at the Class 1A D2 level. They get to the champ. First of all, they survive a crazy low-scoring semifinal with Deary, 29-26. Then they get to the championship against Kendrick. They find themselves down in the second half. They begin mounting the comeback. They hit an incredible shot, Caitlin Wanamaker, to send the game to overtime. And then they fall by 2 in OT, 55-53. They come home with the second place trophy. It was an incredible run for Dietrich, but for the second year in a row, so agonizingly close to winning it all, but second year in a row, a second place trophy.
Yeah, dang it. You know what? I mean, it's heartbreaking for Dietrich because, you kind of been there, done that already. Second place. I mean, you've kind of been the stepsister at the ball 2 years in a row, and this was supposed to be their year. The number 1 ranked team, but they like you said, survived that first round. But boy, they had to mount a wild comeback in that championship game. I mean, they were down at one point by 13 in the second half, and down by 9 entering that fourth quarter when they outscored Kendrick 21-12 to force overtime. But, after that, it was the Kendrick Tigers and Harley Heimgartner that just kind of took over for Kendrick in that overtime, scoring all of her points. And, Kendrick wins their, second title this year after winning boys football, right?
Yeah.
I mean, congratulations to Kendrick. It was number 1 versus number 2, but such a heartbreaker for Dietrich.
And spoiler alert, Kendrick's going to be right in the mix for boys basketball as well. Could be a banner year up there in the small community in North Idaho. For Dietrich, it was still an incredible run at state for them, and second place 2 years in a row, nothing to be ashamed of. Let's take a look at our all-tournament team. This was selected by the IdahoSports.com broadcasters covering the 1AD2 tournament. Scott, we had from Dietrich, Caitlin Wanamaker. She hit the big shot to force overtime. She makes the first team all tournament. Sage Hubert and Aaliyah Robertson made the second team, and then Paige Van Tassel made honorable mention.
Yeah, all of those great players. And, Robertson and Wanamaker came up big in that, championship game. 20 points for Robertson. And, just some really good, talented players on that Dietrich team. And gosh dang it, I still feel for him because I was watching that game and I'm like, oh, come on, let's go. But Well, it wasn't meant to be.
And we'll get to the Dietrich boys momentarily, but they are kind of in the reverse position. They're trying to be the spoiler. That'll be a fun tease for what's coming up.
Yeah.
Okay, our next highest finisher, Scott, from the state tournament. We had some Magic Valley teams playing on Saturday, but Filer came through and actually won the consolation trophy on Saturday by defeating Fruitland 56-48. Filer lost in the opening round by only 6 points to Timberlake 36-30. They beat American Falls on Friday by 9. They get to Saturday. They pull out another tight win. And so Filer gets to come home with it's the black trophy, right? For winning the consolation.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you get to Trophy Saturday. That is number one. The last thing you want to do at the state tournament is go to and barbecue. And you just get to Saturday. And if you can do that, then you know what happens. But, good for that group of seniors for Filer. They've got like 4 or 5 seniors on that roster, so they were pretty senior heavy. But, coming away with hardware, I mean, you cannot be disappointed in that. Filer with a great year, battled Kimberly all year long. Even Buell got in on the mix a little bit, but, at the end of the day, it's Filer with some hardware. So congratulations to them. It's a really good program they have over there.
Yep. 5-time district champions, 5 in a row, trying to make it 6 next year. Kimberly did go 2-0. They lost to Fruitland by 10 on Friday in the loser out game after losing to Teton in the opening round. So let's take a look at the 3A all tournament team here. Scott, let's start with Filer. Hazel Fisher makes the first team all tournament. Reese Hills makes the second team, and it's Tanley Lemoyne making honorable mention. And from Kimberly, Sadie DeGraffenried. That would be a hard one as a broadcaster to get out in a short amount of time. DeGraffenried, but she is honorable mention from Kimberly as well.
Yeah, some people need nicknames, and that's why we do it. And that is definitely one of them. But you look at this group of girls, and it just seems like, for example, Hazel Fisher has been, a 12-year starter for Filer. It seems like, and you don't mention Filer girls basketball without Hazel Fisher there. And just watching her play over the years, because I mean, we've gotten to know Filer pretty well at Jerome just because we have them on our schedule, and then they come to our Christmas tournament, and and we've gotten to know the girls and just kind of pull for them just because they're really, they're nice people, a great program, and these names are not just names, but we know these kids over here, and so again, congratulations, hardware to Filer. That's all you can ask for.
Yep. We had 2 more teams, Scott, playing on Saturday. I kind of leapfrogged Oakley, who because they didn't win a trophy. Can I just say for a moment, I've kind of talked about this on the other Prepcasts. It's weird to me that the 5th place team gets a trophy, but the 4th place team does not. That still seems like I can't wrap my head around that. Oakley took 4th. They fell to Prairie in the 3rd place game at the 1A D1 state tournament, 60-41. After falling in a pretty tight semifinal with Lapway. Last year, of course, they shocked the world and beat Lapway. Yeah. This year, 44, holding Lapway to 44 points is really outstanding defensively, but Oakley just couldn't get their offense going. They only scored 32 points in a 12-point loss to Lapway in the semis, but Oakley playing on Saturday, and I thought still wrapped up a great season overall.
Oh yeah. I mean, Oakley is a perennial powerhouse every year. Losing to Lapway, you don't think Lapway remembered last year when they should have beaten Oakley and didn't. I mean, that's one of those games that circled on the Lapway calendar. But Oakley losing kind of big to Prairie, but it's one of those games to where you lose in a semifinal. We talk about it all the time. I mean, that is the hardest game sometimes to play, is coming off a loss in the semifinals. How are you going to respond? We have seen great teams lose heartbreakers in the semis and then absolutely not show up the next day. And I've coached in those games, and they are the hardest games to get your team motivated because, I remember talking to our girls coach at the state tournament too, is that, hey, you have got to make sure as a head coach that your demeanor and your attitude is something you want reflected in your players, because they are going to be looking to you for their mood, their motivation. And if you look like your dog just got hit by a car, then you know what? That's exactly what they're going to do. And that's where experience comes in too at the state tournament. It's not just about coaching a game. It's about handling your players and the moods and not getting too high, not getting too low. And, so yeah, I kind of feel bad for Oakley in that situation, but, again, another great season for them. But boy, there was really no stopping Grace. And we saw that one early on, that Grace was going to be a team that could cruise through this thing. And boy, did they ever.
I kind of secretly was hoping that Grace and Oakley would meet up in the championship, because they played that epic New Year's Day game at the Delta Center in Salt Lake City. I was trying to petition to get the game moved back there, if that was if that's what the championship was, but didn't pan out.
Dang it.
Unfortunately. On the backside of the bracket, Scott, on Saturday, we had an all Magic Valley consolation final. Murtaugh and Valley meeting up for the fourth time this year, this time for a trophy at state. Murtaugh, after getting upset in the first round by Prairie, 66-54, they beat Rimrock in a loser-out game, and then they beat Valley by 10 to win the consolation final. Valley lost to Lapway right away on opening day. They beat Liberty Charter in their loser-out game and to get to the Saturday final. So Murtaugh comes home with the trophy, and Valley got to Saturday, which is good for that program also.
Yeah, absolutely. And, fun fact, and I think I'm right on this one, but in the entire 5A down to 1A D2 opening round, every game went chalk except that Murtaugh game. That was the only game opening day in any bracket that had a higher seed losing.
Yep. And I think people point to that and say, hey, Max Preps, maybe it's working, right? We got the top seeds to the semis. So
yeah, well, it's sure as heck of a lot better than what we had, not that it can ever be tweaked, but I tell you what, I mean, it's certainly better.
Yep, for sure. So you're right. Prairie over Murtaugh was the only quote unquote upset where a lower seeded team won. Let's take a look at our 1A D1 all tournament team for the girls. Let's start with Oakley. They finished the highest. Taylon Beck takes a second team all tournament honor there. Gentry Hawker named to the honorable mention. Next for Murtaugh, Ashley Stanger named to the first team all tournament. And then Briley Widmere on the honorable mention squad. And then for Valley, they had two selections as well. Lexi Hudig on the second team and Joni Lewis honorable mention. So everybody got two selections there. Pretty good.
Yeah, good representation from the Magic Valley. And, you talk about the Stanger girl. She's off to play at the next level. But Murtaugh and Stanger, that's one of those names that just goes hand in hand. And, even though that they didn't win the whole thing, they come away with some hardware and close out a nice career for Stanger. So, Murtaugh they're going to reload. They're going to be back. They always are. They are a powerhouse in that conference. But again, that conference is a juggernaut. And we're going to hear these stories over and over again about how they just beat each other up over the course of the season, and it's going to continue, and it's awesome. And that's why this conference produces so many winners and so many trophies in so many sports.
Murtaugh loses some seniors. Oakley loses some seniors. Tegro 215 in the chat, Scott. Valley has no seniors, so next year could be interesting. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and plus you get Valley with that crew coming back and the experience now. I mean, all those girls are going to have state experience, and we just talked about it. Experience matters at the state tournament. I can't tell you enough. Played at the state tournament as a player, coached in it. I'm telling you, it's huge. So Valley's going to have a lot to build on with those young kids coming back.
Yep. Let's go to the 4A state tournament, Scott, where Jerome was the 7 seed. Minico was the 6. They each lost in the opening round by 7 points. Jerome loses to Pocatello 49-42. Minico loses to Skyline, the eventual runner-up, by 7, 60-53. and then they have to meet each other in a loser-out game on Friday. This was a big moment for Jerome, I thought. The Tigers to vanquish Minico once and for all, 61-52. Then they moved to the consolation final against Bishop Kelly, another old friend from earlier in the season. They fall a little bit short, ran out of gas against BK, but for Jerome and Minico, kind of interesting that they met up, not where they thought they were going to on the backside of the bracket.
You're right. And sometimes you just have got to find the victories that are going to make your season. And it changes from day to day. I mean, you're looking at that bottom half of that state bracket, and really it could have been any of those teams. I mean, I know Pocatello, the number 2 seed, Jerome was up at the half, and even though they lost by 7, Jerome scored 1 point in that third quarter and didn't score a field goal until midway through that fourth period, yet they were still in it. And it just makes you wonder, if a couple of things would have fallen, where would they be now? And that's where, as kind of an AD who's been there at those games, talking to your young coaches, hey, you've got to rally right now because your season is not over. And boy, did they respond, because Minico was waiting for him. And Minico was the one that, knocked him out of that state or the district championship game. And they felt Jerome did that. They kind of let that one get away because they stepped to the charity stripe. And I think they were like 9 of 23 or 24 on the night. And it's like, we let that one go. So they had a little bit of motivation. And it's funny how paths cross at the state tournament. And depending on where the motivation lies, you see some really interesting things. So congratulations to the Jerome girls. They made it to Trophy Saturday. And that was kind of the goal. Yeah, and they got most of their girls coming back too next year.
Yes, and Minico, of course, loses quite a bit, including CJ Lotta, one of the best players in the classification. Here's the 4A all-tournament team, Scott. From Jerome, Emma Allen named to the second team, and Jensen Cook, honorable mention. For Minico, CJ Lotta named to the first team there. All right, let's go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, that's a shocker.
Yeah.
I mean, I throw some props to CJ. What a career she's had. Just amazing.
Yeah, she's going to Utah State, of course. Scott, we talked about this on the other Prepcasts between Brinley Cannon, the MVP of the tournament, Abby Lusk of Pocatello, the defensive MVP, and then everybody on this first team, Lotta, and then Kenna Garza from Pokey, and Mia Williams from Shelley, and the Shippen sisters from Skyline. Like, those are all like potential high-end college basketball players. That's a really stacked,
It really is. I mean, that is a stacked field of talent on the basketball floor. And I mean, my goodness, I'm telling you, if CJ makes it to, Saturday and doesn't go 2 and out, maybe she's, the player, the all tournament player, whatever. But yeah, looking up and down that roster, holy cannolis, that's some talent.
Yeah. So no shame to Emma Allen for, only getting the second team, she can, that's
well, and a lot of her bread and butter too is softball. I mean, she is a heck of a softball player, so, I mean, basketball might be her second best.
Yep. So. For sure. All right. Finally, 2A tournament. Scott Declo came in as the number 7 seed. They go 2 and out. The only team from the Magic Valley, besides Minico, and I'm trying to think now. I think that was it to go 2 and out. They lose to Bear Lake, the eventual state champs in the opening round. They fall to Soda Springs by 13 in the loser out contest. It was still a good season for the Hornets overall. Now the question is, okay, how do we've kind of assumed dominance of this district. How do we start competing on a statewide level? And that's something that Coach Powers is going to work on hard this off season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at Declo, I mean, coming in as number 7, and, they got handled by eventual champion Bear Lake. But they rebounded well against a really good Soda team. And just fell a little bit short. But that experience is going to be huge for Declo to build on. And, that's a pretty solid field of 2A teams, when you look at it. I mean, Bear Lake, was just one of the hottest teams coming in. North Fremont, perennial powers in that conference, fell to the number 4 seed, but Grangeville was kind of the surprise, coming in as the overall number 1 and getting knocked off by North Fremont, which really kind of helped Bear Lake a little bit become that champion. But I was watching this field and thinking, man, what a tough field that is. I mean, very, very lots of parity there.
Yes. And anybody that had North Fremont versus Bear Lake, besides the fans in Ashton and Montpelier, they're lying to you. Here's Shug Bradshaw. Just logged in, hoping to hear more talk about the mighty Big 3 in 2A girls hoops and how much better they are than the teams that easily beat them. Please don't disappoint. Okay. All right. I've earned this. I said all year the Big 3 was Grangeville, Melba, Coal Valley Christian, based upon those teams actually played each other and had been regular participants at state, and I knew they had good players coming back. Bear Lake has been a couple years since they've been to state, and it's nice to see that they put all the talent together. I'll admit I was wrong. I don't know if anybody else will. Nobody was picking Bear Lake to win state coming into that 2A tournament. I'm telling you that right now. It would help, I will say, Bear Lake, it would help if you played more teams outside of East Idaho. It'd help us be more informed to get a couple more data points. Against that was the problem, is they played all East Idaho, and I'm like, well, I don't know how good East Idaho is. I know these other teams are good, but it was fun to see. And as for North Fremont, how they dominated their competition, they didn't. They won by a point on an and one with a second to go. So that game could have swung either way. So I'll fight back on that a little bit. I'm not taking it personally, Scott.
No, not at all. And I'm just going to sit quiet and let you just kind of see how you dig yourself out of this one, because you know more than I do when it comes to this classification. And so I'm just going to stay quiet. But you know what? You bring up the point about Bear Lake and playing all those East Idaho teams. I mean, that's the problem we have with North Idaho. We just don't get those comparisons and that data just to make an informed decisions sometimes. But I for one saw Bear Lake all the way. I mean, I saw I don't know what everybody's talking about. I mean, I knew North Fremont was good, but I saw Grangeville losing. I mean, they weren't a true number 1. It was Bear Lake all the way. Come on.
Okay. That's a good, yeah, you weren't there for any of our state preview shows. So you've got plausible deniability. That's called. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, I'm handling the boys coming up next week, so I better be able to back up what I'm saying. But right now I can just say whatever I want.
That's right. Hey, all joking aside, congratulations to Bear Lake. I always say, when I'm making my analysis, I love being wrong. That's what's great about state. You never know what's going to happen. And so congratulations to Bear Lake on their 2A championship. Here is the 2A all tournament team. Scott, quickly to wrap up our girls hoops discussion here. From Declo, we had Bryn Silcock named as an honorable mention. So congratulations there to Bryn. And I know Declo loses some good seniors. And so, they're going to have to figure out how they reload, because Wendell's bringing back like almost everybody. So,
yeah. We talked about it. Wendell was a year or two out. But now with Declo losing everybody, it's Wendell's to have or to take over next year.
Yes, for sure. Okay, last point here for Shug Bradshaw. And then Bear Lake played big schools in Wyoming. Kelly Walsh from Casper High has 2,400 students. You're right, Shug. I lived in Wyoming. I covered basketball in Wyoming. Wyoming basketball pales in comparison to Idaho basketball, and that's putting it nicely. There's not a lot of good teams in Wyoming. So, again, yes, good data point. But, again, that doesn't help me in my analysis of what's going on statewide. But yes, congratulations to Bear Lake is what I'm trying to say. Take the victory already. Okay. Take the dub. All right.
Oh my word.
All right, funny. Scott, before we get into state wrestling and boys basketball, if you're from Idaho and between the ages of 13 and 18 years old, enter the No Vape video contest to expose the shadowy commercial tobacco marketing tactics behind vaping. Just create and upload your 90-second vape bashing masterpiece, and you could win a portion of the more than $10,000 in prize money being awarded. Deadline to enter is April 1st. Winners will be announced May 1st. Raise your voice about the dangers of vaping and win big cash prizes from No Vape Idaho. I think this is a great idea, Scott. Get the teens involved. You get to create a video, use that creativity, and you get to talk smack about vaping. And you could possibly win cash, right?
Absolutely. It's again, it's a problem our kids are just not getting. They're not learning. So any education we can provide, the better, and get them involved in this, even better. I remember when, what was it, the big race, the great race? What was that show? The Amazing Race. They were having auditions, and my brother wanted me to make a video with him to audition for that. And so we did, and we made this awesome video, and I don't know if he ever sent it in, but my point is, that can be a lot of fun, get creative, make a video, and do it.
Yep. And you could win some prize money, which is a pretty big deal as well. Okay, let's shift to state wrestling. Scott, it's taking place at the Mini Dome / Holt Arena / the ICCU Dome, whatever you want to call it now, over in Pocatello. Yeah. It's going to host state wrestling this weekend. We did a deep dive on the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast earlier this week. That's our standalone wrestling podcast we do every week. But we kind of identified some team contenders and some team dark horses here, Scott. So let's just start at the top here with Class 4A. Minico is the favorite coming into state wrestling. They're bringing 20 athletes. That is the most of any team in the field. Really, it's going to come down to Minico's quantity versus Bishop Kelly's quality.
Yeah, no question about it. Minico's got the depth. Bishop Kelly has the superstars. Bishop Kelly has the kids that are going to wrestle for state titles. And then Minico, with their depth, is going to try to get it done. I mean, you look up and down this Minico Bishop Kelly. I mean, you go through it all, and I mean, BK has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wrestlers that are ranked number 1 in their classifications. That's insane. But that shows you the star power that Bishop Kelly has, and those star power wrestlers are the ones that are going to have to perform, and Minico, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 number 1 ranked wrestlers, and that's nothing to shake your head at either. But you really, when it comes down to, it's going to be those middle ranked wrestlers scoring points. If your number ones always win, it's not going to be enough. You need those other points to boost your team to a title. And you look at some of these weight classes too, and there are going to be some battles. I'm looking at number one that jumps out to me is the 160-pound weight class, where BK's number 1, Jaden Skellinger, comes in, and Minico's Paxton Twist comes in the 2nd ranked in the 160. But what a clash that would be if they met in the finals. And those kind of things could be happening across the board, because even in 152, BK has, the number 1 ranked in Martino, and then Otley for Minico's number 3. I mean, you can go up and down all this and find these potential matchups between these absolutely 2 heavyweight wrestling programs.
Yeah, and there's some Minico guys to keep an eye on. Preston Sonner Cranny has a good shot. Garrett Vale, who, shout out to him. He tunes in loyally every week to the Mat Chat Prepcast. It's always fun when the athletes themselves are tuning in and being part of the conversation as well. So we'll keep an eye on it. Jerome is a dark horse, Scott, to contend for a top 3 spot. Bringing 12 guys, though, they're going to have to squeeze every ounce out of those 12 to finish in the top 3. But there is a path. So
you think about it. The top 3 contenders are most likely going to be the top 3 finishers, even though Century was bringing 16, Lakeland 14. But Caldwell's pedigree, the quality of wrestlers they're bringing. I mean, you can't really sleep on them. I do see it coming down to a 2-team race between Minico and Bishop Kelly. It's really the usual suspects in 4A state wrestling. And, and you're right. You brought up some names that are just going to be fun to watch. And Vale was one of them. I mean, this kid is coming in as the defending state champion with a 43-1 record. And his only loss was to a kid in California in a 91 team classic in Reno. So, I mean, this Garrett Vale kid is good. And then Sonner Cranny, a 195, another defending state champion. I mean, here we go. That's how deep Minico is. And this kid comes in only losing to 3 Idaho opponents this year. And, you know, Spencer Pease is a guy that I'm kind of pulling for too, just because at 182, you know, he's a 3-time state place winner, but he's never been to the finals. And he was the district champion, enters with a 44-5 mark. Only one loss to an Idaho opponent, and that was the Rogers kid out of Meridian, who's headed to Oregon State. So you look at this Minico team; they've got some star power as well.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch that battle between Minico and BK for the title. Similarly, at the 3A tournament, Scott, Buell was the team I picked in the preseason to win the 3A championship. Everybody seems to have pivoted to Fruitland now because they are bringing 26 wrestlers. That is the most of any team in any classification. And then when you combine what they're bringing with their girls, it is the most combined boys and girls as well. So Fruitland doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Buell has the Brunson brothers. They've got some athletes up and down the lineup. I think, you know, South Fremont as well can't be discounted. They have been the juggernaut recently in 3A wrestling, but those three to me, Fruitland, Buell, South Fremont, put them in a hat, shake them up.
I agree 100%. Those are the three that are going to take the trophies, I think. And the battle between Fruitland and Buell is going to be a good one because, I mean, you go up and down, you know, the ranks in this. I mean, those are a lot of wrestlers that these guys are bringing. You know, Fruitland has got somebody in every single classification, as does Buell. So they've got wrestlers in every division. And there's a couple of, you know, matchups that jump out to me. And that's at the 195. You know, number one for Buell, number one rank coming in is Gabe Finley. You know, he's one of 2 undefeated athletes in the 3A field. You know, he's 50-0. I mean, this kid is legit, but right on his heels is the kid from Fruitland, Will Phillips, you know, so they go 1-2 into that 195 pound. And so, I mean, that's going to be a fun battle, but, you know, Buell brings in another number one at the 145 mark with Riley Brunson. You know, he was the 2021 state champion and runner-up in 23, and he comes in with a 49-1 mark, and his only loss was a medical forfeit. And this is a kid coming in with 39 pins on the year. You know, 39 of his 49 are pins. So this is a solid Buell team when they've got some superstars as well. So, you know, it's going to be fun to watch.
Very interesting battle for sure. In the chat, Easton wants to know, are you taking boys basketball questions right now? Hang out for about 5 more minutes, Easton. We're going to wrap up our state wrestling, and then we're going to get into boys hoops. Okay, let's talk about at the 2A level, Scott. It's 2A and 1A, of course, together. From the Magic Valley, I just don't know. You know, Declo comes in with the most at 10. I just don't know that that's going to be enough to get it done. You know, they could challenge for a top 5, maybe a top 3, but really, I mean, the 3 teams that are listed here, Kellogg, Malad, New Plymouth, those are the 3 favorites coming in.
Yeah, it is. And Declo, they've got a really good wrestler at 132 in Wallace Durfee. I mean, he's the defending state champ at 126. 36-5 on the year. Only one loss to a 2A opponent, and that was the kid out of Malad, Drake Morrison. You know, this kid comes in, Wallace Durfee does, as a district champion. So he's really kind of the flagship wrestler right now for Declo. But I think you're right. It's just not enough, you know, to get past, you know, some of these 2A powerhouses. I mean, Kellogg and Malad bringing 17 each. That's a lot.
And it helps because they come from larger districts, so they get more bids to state available is how that works, right? Declo, same old story. Yeah, we come from a small district. Paul Kingsbury says, go Grims. He's a proud New Plymouth alum, and New Plymouth is the team that, you know, could definitely, I picked Malad officially, but New Plymouth is going to be right there in the mix as well, Scott. And then for girls wrestling, only one team in the history of it being a sanctioned sport in Idaho has ever won first place, and that's Eagle. And they're coming in with 7 this year. Canyon Ridge is coming with 8, though, and they and Thunder Ridge are the 2 that pose the most serious threat to ending Eagle's dynastic run here in girls wrestling.
Yeah, boy, I'm just excited that girls wrestling is finally taken off, and it's just growing and growing. And Canyon Ridge comes in with a really good contingent of wrestlers. I mean, they have, some really good girls that can get after it, and Eagle is, like you said, they're the only ones that have won a title. But this Canyon Ridge team, I've seen them wrestle, and they've got some really good talent, and I don't know, we'll see what happens.
Shout out to Jerome bringing 5 as well. This is an unprecedented freshman class of wrestlers across the state, and young woman named Bezdacek from Jerome is definitely a part of that. She has really been an eye opener this year. She's been a lot of fun to watch compete. What I like about this and don't like all at the same time is it's one classification, right, Scott? So you've got 2 A's competing against 5 A's. It is kind of cool. When would you ever see Rocky Mountain and Bonner's Ferry listed next to each other in anything, right? And yet there they are in girls wrestling. Yeah,
exactly. And that's, until this thing grows to a point where we can separate it, this, is what we're going to get. And, and you talk about some interesting people to watch. I mean, Buell's got a girl named Roxy Sheen, who is going to be a name you're going to remember for the next few years. She's 41-1 as a freshman. She won the Raleigh Lane with all of them with bonus point victories. Her only loss was to a girl out of Star Valley, Wyoming. And so she's going to be one to keep an eye on. But she. Let's see, what was I going to tell you there? Oh, yeah. She could be Buell's 2nd consecutive girls champion after Taylor Hood won it last year in her division. But then you mentioned the Bezdacek girl from Jerome. This is another freshman, undefeated. She won the USA Wrestling 14 and under girls national title in 2023. And she is something to watch. So there are 2 freshmen from the Magic Valley that are going to be, everybody's going to have their eye on. But again, Canyon Ridge is the one that's going to maybe hopefully play spoiler for the Magic Valley, as they were in the top 10 last year as well.
I'll give you one more name to keep an eye on from the Magic Valley in girls wrestling, Scott. It comes at 285. Amy Hartman from Mountain Home. She comes in as the number 1 seed there. And we just recently, Al Fontes did a really nice hidden gems of Idaho prep wrestling deep dive and Q&A with Amy Hartman. You may have missed that amongst all the girls basketball state action last week, but it was a really fun in-depth article. He went one-on-one with Amy Hartman. She is never without her cowgirl hat, and she gets it signed, Scott, from people that she meets all over competing nationally. It's a really cool deal, actually.
Wow. See, and that's the cool thing about, what we're doing here, what you guys are doing with all of that is, how would anybody ever know that, unless it gets featured by something that we're doing. So that's pretty cool. That makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah. Let's see if I can pull up a picture of it here. You can kind of see it. So Scott, if everyone, this is the article, you can find it at IdahoSports.com. But if you blow it up full screen, you can kind of see that hat she's wearing, right? And it's got all these different signatures on it. It's pretty cool. It's a really cool deal.
Yeah, so makes me wonder if that's going to start a little trend now.
Yeah, you never know, right?
I don't wear a cowboy hat, but I wear a batting helmet sometimes. So maybe I can get that signed, or my beret. I don't know.
Yeah, your beret, sure thing. Ryan Skaggs, our North Idaho Prepcaster, girls wrestling is absolutely blowing up. It's amazing to see the rapid growth statewide. And then he says, "Let's go Bonner's Ferry. # win one for the small schools." Hey, that's the thing.
Yeah, why not?
Mean, when the highest amount of athletes any one team is bringing is 8, Yeah, that means things are pretty wide open in the team competition. So,
Yeah.
good luck to all of our girls wrestlers there. All right, Scott, it is time now for boys basketball district tournament action. A lot of teams have won district titles already. We still have some really interesting district games out there kind of hanging in the balance. So let's start. Let's just start with the teams that have already clinched spots to state. Scott, what I'm going to do is show my screen so you can look at the brackets that way. If you're watching on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, or Twitter account, if you're listening audio only at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, we still have all of the district brackets on our homepage at IdahoSports.com. You can follow along that way. Let's start with last night, Scotty, in this District 4 4A Great Basin Conference, where, we all saw this coming. The number 4 seed, Minico, back-to-back district champs for the first time since the late 80s. They beat Canyon Ridge, the top seed last night, 41-29 to advance to state.
Yeah, holy cow. But Minico, you know what? Minico under a first-year head coach, I mean, Brady Trinkle is gone, and if you remember, Brady's kind of MO was really tough, physical defense. And you have a lot of these kids that are left over from Brady. And I'm not saying nothing away from Coach Manning. He's done a great job adjusting with all of this. But last night, they showed signs of that toughness. They've got size. I mean, this is a team that if they could just get it together, you watch them play, and you're like, this team should have a better record than they do, but it does take some time to get it together. And really, I think if this team could gel, they've got some pieces. I mean, they still have Carson Wayment and Riker Stimson on the guard line, two fantastic guards. And then you got Dominic Soto on the inside. So they've got paint presence. They've got shooting guards. They've got height. They have enough to cause some problems at state. And so I'm interested to see kind of how this game goes, and you look at that game against Canyon Ridge. I mean, Minico dropped 2 games in the regular season to Canyon Ridge, one in overtime, and the other one a 4-point loss. And, so this is this is a team that's peaking at the right time.
Yep, it's going to be interesting to see. Riker Simpson led the way with 13 points last night. And for Canyon Ridge, they had been walking that tightrope, Scott. You look back at some of their recent results, and they had beaten Minico in overtime in the regular season, and then they had lost to Wood River by 3, and then they had beaten Minico by only 4, and they beat Twin Falls by 1, and they beat Wood River by 3, and they just kept, playing with fire, so to speak. And this time it burned them, but now, no time to really reflect on that. They've got to turn around and host crosstown rival Twin Falls, 1 seed versus 2 seed for that second and final bid to state. This game's going to be Friday night, Scott. I'm guessing 7:00. I haven't put the time in yet. I haven't heard officially, but
I believe it is 7:00. Yes. But yeah, I mean, here we go. Twin or Canyon Ridge, one of them's going, one of them's staying home. And in the regular season, it was Canyon Ridge beating Twin twice, for the first time in since 1840. And, so Canyon Ridge under head coach Alex Wells in his first year, I mean, they are really playing well. I mean, it was always the knock against Canyon Ridge is they always had the best athletes. Could anybody get them to work very hard and just play to their potential? Well, Alex has done that. And I think he's done a great job. I mean, this is a team that came in before losing last night. I mean, they had won 8 in a row. And this is a huge Canyon Ridge team. They boast some size. They've got the Hill kid that stands 6'9", but they've only got 3 guys on their roster that are under 6 feet tall. And they have all of the components to be really, really good. I mean, Cade McIntyre's kind of been their guy this year. He led the way, and he's averaging 18 points a game on the season. I mean, this is a really good Canyon Ridge team going up against Twin, and Twin's got the pedigree. Twin has the experience. I mean, this is a team that returns a lot of players from last year. that were at the state tournament. Mix and Plew and Swenson and Pittard, all those guys are coming back. And so, this is a Twin team that, like I said, is senior heavy. They're playing okay. The record doesn't quite indicate that, but it's Twin Falls and Canyon Ridge, and I don't know what it is about Twin Falls. And Canyon Ridge, I know, has this mental block in certain areas, as do most of the schools in the Great Basin. Is sometimes you just line up across from Twin Falls and you see that across the jersey, Twin Falls, and then all of a sudden panic sets in because they are the big brother. They're the big town. They're the ones that have all the money and the resources and the big city, and everybody just has that mental block. Canyon Ridge, for the first time, shook that mental block off during the regular season, but now can they do it when it counts the most?
Twin Falls has the momentum, right? They lost to Minico on a last-second bucket here in the semifinal last Thursday, 41-39, and since then, 2 blowouts over Burley, 71-37, and then last night over Wood River, 75-50. So they're playing with a little momentum. Canyon Ridge has kind of been stunned, as it were. They have to find that momentum. The one thing that's nice for them is it's at Canyon Ridge, because that Twin Falls gym, when it's rocking and rolling, that's one of the toughest environments to go win at in the Great Basin Conference. It's an old school gym. The sound really bounces off the walls. It's a tough place to go play. So Canyon Ridge having it at their place is going to be huge for them. But this game will be Friday night, 7:00, to see who gets to join Minico at State. What a wild time for sure. Last night, Scott, in Class 3A, the Filer Wildcats delivered on the district championship in a pretty large way. They beat Kimberly 70-47. And followers of 3A basketball knew that Filer was a really tough team, but the casual fans were more concerned with Snake River and Bonners Ferry and McCall Donnelly. But after this 70-47 win, secret's out on Filer. They're coming to State ready to compete for the championship.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the hottest team in the state, bar none, at any level. I mean, they're on a 16-game winning streak after starting the season 1-5. I mean, this is a Filer team that is hungry. They are talented, and they're going to State. And it's, like you said, first time since 2013, or it's the first SIC title since 2013. They went to State in 2020, but this is a really good team. And, they had their hands full for a half against Kimberly. It was only a 5-point game at the half, and then they kind of ran away with it. And Filer was playing without, Jared Evans, one of their starters, who was out with a hand injury. And so what do? They next man up mentality. Owen Grant, who's usually their sixth man, steps in and leads all scorers with 22. So, I mean, this is a Filer team that is really, really playing well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see now if Kimberly can get to State via the play-in game. They're going to play either Weiser or Fruitland. That game is taking place tonight, I think. I think no matter what, though, Scott, I like Kimberly to advance and to get to State also.
I do too. I mean, I think Weiser's going to knock off Fruitland. But then I do like Kimberly in this matchup. And so I agree with you 100%. I do see Filer and Kimberly both at the state tournament.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting battle Saturday at Mountain Home in that state play-in game. Scott, also Tuesday night, the Declo Hornets sweep the best of 3-game series against Wendell. It was kind of interesting. They split with each other in the regular season. And so tiebreaker, well, there really isn't one. So they came to this agreement where they would play game 1 of the best of 3 series at a neutral site. It ended up being Valley High School. And then whoever won game 1 would then inherit home court advantage. So Declo wins game 1 last Tuesday, 53-50, very tight game. Yeah. And then they get to host a week later, knowing that if they win on their home floor, they're going to State. And they do it. They turn back Wendell 76-61. So congratulations to Declo, off to State once again.
Yeah, congratulations to the Hornets. I mean, that first battle at Valley High School, a very interesting setup that they had. Make it a neutral court, which totally negates, Declo's advantage. But they were able to get the road win, if you will. But this is a really good Declo team. I mean, they've got 4 seniors on the roster. They're back-to-back district champs. But they needed a big fourth quarter to get that done, as they went on a 22-6 run, I believe, in that fourth quarter to get the win. And they're looking to get back to state. Last year they were there, but they went 2 and out. So they kind of want to show that they've got what it takes to win a game at state. I mean, they were there, I think, in 2018 where they took 3rd, but 0-2 last year is still sitting kind of fresh in their minds, especially for these 4 seniors.
Declo was a little discounted coming into the football postseason, and we know what they were able to pull off there, making a very deep run. They have a lot of those same guys, Max Snedeker and Rasmussen and
Gibby.
All playing hoops as well. So congratulations to Declo winning the District 2 championship. And you're right, Scott, that 76-61 final score game was closer than the final score would indicate. Wendell did really push them in 2 really tough games. Yeah,
and a shout out to Wendell. Jordan Swainston finished with 31 points for Wendell in that game and really helped. He tried to put his team on his back. But it was just too much of the Gibby and the Snedeker and that crew there. It was just too much. I mean, Gibby finished with 18, Snedeker 18 points as well. But hey, congratulations to Declo.
Yep. And I kind of forgot, Scott, we've got some pictures of all these district tournament champions that I'm going to share. So here is the Declo Hornets after winning the District 4 championship.
Yeah. And it's funny because the times that these 2 teams played each other, Declo and Wendell, the team that was ahead at the half lost the game every time coming into this until this game. So yeah, little fun fact for you. But yeah, cool picture.
Yep. And here is Filer after winning the District 3 championship last night. There's Coach Rob Anderson right there with the dome on the second in from the left, and all those great Filer players celebrating their district championship. And then here's Minico, Scott, winning, with that Riverhawk logo right at midcourt. They went to Canyon Ridge and won that thing in the road black uniforms. Congratulations to Minico on winning the district title as well. There's Doug Manning, the head coach, on the far right in his first season there at Minico High. So yeah, really exciting.
Very cool. Yeah.
All right. We've got one more photo to share, Scott, and it comes from your favorite league, the 1A D1 Snake River Conference, where holy macaroni, Valley is your district champion. They won on Tuesday night at CSI, the College of Southern Idaho. They beat Oakley 50-36. Now, this was after Oakley had boat raced Valley in the regular season finale. Both teams came in with 9-0 conference records. The winner of that would win the regular season title and get the number 1 seed at districts. Oakley won by double digits over Valley. And so for Valley to turn around and then do to Oakley what Oakley did to them, hey, another masterful coaching job by one of the best in the business, Brian Hardy, right?
Yeah, when they lost that 19-point game to Oakley in early February 7th, it was about Oakley just being more physical. I mean, they knew that if they wanted to compete, in this conference, and we talk about it all the time, or at least I do, that you are going to have to be one tough cookie to survive this conference. And Valley got exposed. And what that did is it just made them realize what they needed to work on. And so, they were thinking about this game and this opportunity and hoping they got Oakley back to show that they could be physical with them. It was the quickness of Valley, and they kept attacking the rim. And so, what Valley tried to do is you're not going to go stand toe to toe 4 quarters with a tough team like Oakley. What you're going to do is you're going to use your quickness. You're going to try to get to the rim. You're going to try to score in the paint, shoot free throws, all that stuff. And that's what Valley did, is they just attacked. And, as a result, it's the second conference championship in 3 years for Valley. Pedro Robles, 20 points. Christensen finished with 18. So congratulations on a great effort by Coach Hardy and the Valley Vikings.
and they're headlined or quarterbacked, if you will, by Josh Hardy, the great quarterback in football. He's the point guard for this Valley team. And so it's been fun to watch them. Scott, Oakley now a chance to get to state in the third place contest tonight, Thursday night at Jerome High School. They're going to play Cary. Look at what Cary's had to do. They played in the semifinals last Wednesday. Cary lost that game 55-36. And then Cary has been walking the tightrope. They beat Raft River by 6 in a loser out game, 62-56. They beat Lighthouse Christian in the final 90 seconds, essentially, in the fourth place game, 50-48. Can the Panthers walk the tightrope one more time, or will Oakley get back to state? Cary on the line, Scott. They have made state 18 consecutive years. Can they make it 19?
That is the stat that jumped out to me more than anything. I mean, this is going to be for Cary 19 years in a row at the state tournament. That's unheard of. But they've got to get past Oakley, and that game is going to be at Jerome tonight, 7:00. I'm going to be there on the mic, spinning records, doing my thing, and just watching these guys go at it. And this is there. I mean, they played once. Before the tournament, and both of them were won by Oakley, and 1 2-point game, and the other one a little bit of a blowout. But Oakley is just a tough physical team, and again, we talked about this a little bit ago. Is how are they going to react? How are they going to respond to this Cary team who just seems to be riding Lady Luck at the moment? This is, I don't know. I'm really interested in this game because there's some pretty good players. I mean, one that jumps out to me is Preston Wood. He finished with 24 points, but this is a guy that can just really light it up, and he can attack the rim, he can shoot the rock, and this is going to be a really fun game to watch.
And Dick Simpson has been coaching a long time there at Cary. He just knows how to get it done year in, year out. They played once in the regular season, Scott. You're right. Oakley won that game by 2, 59-57. And I hope a similar outcome is headed your way tonight, just for the sake of being an enjoyable contest.
It's funny because I got a call today from Randy Wynn, head of officials. And, he would just shooting the breeze a little bit. And he told me the crew that was coming over tonight for this game, and it's a good crew. So, I mean, they know what's at stake here. So they've got some of their best officials coming for this one.
That's awesome. Scott, I'm going to be broadcasting the 1A D1 state tournament for IdahoSports.com.
Oh, nice.
Week. So I'll be watching this with vested interest. Joel Richardson's going to be broadcasting with me. And he says back and forth double-digit wins between Oakley and Valley. Selfishly, he would love to see Valley and Oakley rematch at state. And he says, I imagine the scoring would be closer. Yes, I think so. With Coach Beck for Oakley and Coach Hardy for Valley, they're great at adjusting, as we've just seen in the last week or so between the two sides. So,
yeah, why not? The 1A D1, both some of the best teams in the tournament.
Yeah. Only district championship that is yet to be decided, Scott, is at the 1A D2 level. Before we get to that, though, here are the Valley Vikings posing with that district championship trophy on the floor at CSI, the College of Southern Idaho, earlier this week. There's Coach Hardy all the way on the far left. Good athletes. They're not tall. They don't have a ton of height, but man, they defend you, and they're all athletic and can handle the ball. So,
yep. Good for them. That's gonna so exciting for them, and playing at CSI is quite a fun deal too. Because when I was in high school, all of our conference tournaments were held on that floor, and that was back in by candlelight.
Yeah, right. All right, Scott, let's get to the 1A D2 Sawtooth Conference, where
this is a head scratcher, Brandon. I don't know about this one.
I don't know what happened here. Camas County has been the number 1 ranked team in the coaches poll, the media poll, pretty consistently throughout the season. They beat Dietrich in the undefeated semifinal last Wednesday, 82-60. Dietrich has to kind of, hold Hagerman at bay in a loser out game by 9, 73-62. I guess that's by 11. And then we get this district championship game last night, Scott, and we coming in knowing one bid to state is available. It's a true double elimination tournament. So if Dietrich is going to pull it off, they got to beat Camas County not once, but twice. And here they are. They take step one, 52-51 final. Yeah. And now they're going to meet up at Richfield. How ironic is that? They're meeting at a district rival, Richfield, to settle the score Friday night, 7:00. Win and you're in. True, if necessary, game 7 of the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a head scratcher because of the dominance of Camas. I mean, they have played 4 times this year, right? The first time, Camas won by 30. The second time, Camas won by 27. The third time, Camas won by 22. Last night, they lose by 1. What happened? I mean, and like you said, this has been a Camas team that has been dominant all year. And for Dietrich, that's their first win versus Camas since January of 21. I mean, that is how dominant this Camas team has been. And now all of a sudden, they just got punched in the mouth by a team that should not have even been in the gym with them, according to the previous 3 games. And now I'm interested to see how Camas responds. Are they going to tighten up and realize that, hey, we can get beaten at any time and Dietrich has got some momentum and some confidence? Or are they just going to say, you know what, hey, we are the better team, flex our muscle, relax, get out there, do what you've done all year long? I don't know.
I'll tell you, this is going to sound weird. First of all, for Camas, the 51 points, second lowest point total of the year. The only time they scored less than 51 was in a loss to Emmett, a Class 4A team they added to the schedule this year. They lost 49-44. So otherwise, they have been above that 51-point mark, even in their other losses. So Dietrich really put the clamps down defensively, and probably a cold night from Camas, a combination of the two. You would think Dietrich is the team that's playing with house money, right? Camas is the heavy favorite. I think it actually goes the other way, Scott, because now Dietrich's done it. And now the pressure is on them to see if they can pull it off again, where I actually think Camas has less pressure on them. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I mean, and if you've got a real solid difference between the talent levels of the teams, talent is not going to lose 2 in a row. They just don't. But if they're evenly matched, then it becomes who's got the momentum and the confidence and the swagger. But I think you're right. I mean, Camas came out and just stunk the place up. Dietrich did what they needed to do. Can they do it again? If I'm a betting man, I mean, I'm going to say Camas in this one, just because they are they're good. They're really good.
Yeah, I got a report from our boss, Paul Kingsbury. He was putting in the scores last night and reaching out to coaches and people. And here's what Paul said. Caught him on a bad night. Dietrich got him flustered and took advantage. That's the report that he got. So, okay, we'll see if the Devils can do it. Can the devil magic work its way in for a second night? We'll find out. It's going to be interesting for sure. So,
yep, that's the last one we've got on the boys' side. And then, then the field will be set from the Magic Valley.
That's right. So, Scott, next week on the Magic Valley Prepcast, in place of you and I talking, we'll have our traditional boys basketball state tournament preview special. That'll be next Tuesday night, probably at 7:00 Mountain Time. We did 8:00 Mountain for the girls, and I got some complaints from the guys that it went past their bedtime. So,
are you kidding me?
We might move it back an hour.
So we are going. It's going to be the 27th. That's Tuesday.
It's got to be, because I'm traveling Wednesday, and it takes me 8 hours to drive to Boise, and so and Monday's going to be probably
8 hours.
Listening.
Jeez, Miss Daisy, what are you doing?
and I hope everyone appreciates the sacrifice I'm making by putting the show at 7:00 Mountain. That's 6:00 where I live. That's dinner time, Scott. I am postponing, and I'm a guy that likes to eat. All right. I am postponing my dinner so we can do this state tournament preview special.
Oh, geez. There's the beret. Somehow I think Paul has hacked our system.
Yeah.
Oh,
China,
that's awesome.
China's overridden the system or something. So
Yeah,
anyways,
exactly. We aligned with TikTok or something here. So
exactly.
oh, my Lord.
Big thanks to everybody who tuned into the Magic Valley Prepcast this week. Next week's state tournament preview special for boys. Then we'll be back in 2 weeks, Scott, to recap everything.
Yep. And then I'll have a Scott's thoughts for you at that point too. It's just one busy time getting all these state tournaments together. Thought we'd table it, but when we come back, it's going to be about asking for help, and it's going to focus predominantly on the side of mental health.
Yeah, it's going to be an important one, so we want to make sure we get it right too. So for sure. All right. Thanks for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast, everybody. Enjoy the competition this weekend. Wherever you're going, please arrive safely. For Scott Burton, I'm Brandon Baney, and we'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.